My wife, Zalzange Stark, has a serious addiction. It is called Scrabble. I don't know if you're familiar with this. It's one of the worst addictions that Viber can possibly have. If I told you the Choshev of Rosh Yeshiva's wife that she regularly plays Scrabble with in Lakewood, you could see that the outbreak is really quite worrying. And it's interesting, when my wife sometimes, if I've behaved very badly and she wants to punish me, she forces me to play Scrabble, which I consider to be a madrega slightly worse than Gehenna. But there's an afkamina, Taka, interessant an afkamina between my wife's approach to Scrabble. Is the Oilam familiar with Scrabble? Du verstehst, was ist Schatten Scrabble? Ja. Okay, good. So, there's an interesting, and maybe it's an afkamina between men, Viber and Mention, that my wife is very interested. She's got an incredibly large vocabulary. And she knows there are words, but she's not particularly interested in what the words mean. Right? As long as she knows she's got an 8-letter word, which she keeps in mind, gewaldig, she's got 8 letters. The fact that she hasn't a clue what the 8-letter word means, that doesn't mean anything to her. It's not, maybe it's because, and I'm sure it's the same with you, we're interested in words. Words count for us. The shorish of the word, the mashmas of the word. We look at the Rashi, we look at the Anama Achosid of the Alshich. Words are very, very important to us, and therefore my approach is totally different. Last Shabbos, I was in a place called Holland, a place called Amsterdam. That's where we started it off. And then we moved to a place about an hour just next to the German border for a Shabbaton, with 120 students and 120 adults. In two Chalachim, people were advanced and people were more beginners. And Takazeh is interesting. It was a very exciting, enjoyable Shabbos. I enjoyed the people very much. It was one of the nicest Shabbos I've had for a very long time. But immediately when I arrived at Amsterdam, my mind went into, if you like, Jewish mode. What does Amsterdam mean? It's not just a word. For me, I want to know what the word means. In case you're in slightest interested, there is a river in Amsterdam going through the biggest city in Holland called the Amstel. There's a beer called Amstel as well, incidentally. So it's Amsterdam. There was a dam and a river called the Amstel. So that's that. I want to know what words mean. In fact, words mean a lot. Where we come from, words mean a lot. And names mean a lot. The name that you give to something, what is the name? Including what is your name. There are only 3 times in a person's life that I know about that a normal Yid is guaranteed to have Ruach HaKodesh. One of them is when you're about to, if you go in the Shidduch and you go about it in the right way, then a Bas Kol has already said that Bas Ploini Leploini, this finding the right lady to marry, that is a shtickle Ruach HaKodesh. Another time is when it comes to naming a child. No matter how much work you put into naming a child, ultimately the name is suggested to you min hashamayim, that's Ruach HaKodesh. And the third example is when a person is about to be nifter, on their deathbed, what a person says at that time has got a special koyach. We believe that the Shekhinah is taka there, ready for the neshama to leave the guf, and is invested the person with a certain Ruach HaKodesh. To get a bracha from somebody before they're going to be nifter, that's a special bracha because taka, it's what hat gesagt is gesagt. So that's the real thing. But there's an incredibly interesting Kli Yoker, which I thought might be interesting to share with you, and it's in Seder of Yakel, and here it's in Lamed Hey and Posek Lamed. The Yom Moshe El Bnei Yisrael. So Moshe says to the Bnei Yisrael, Ru'u, I want you to see. Kara Hashem b'Shem B'Tzalel ben Uri ben Chur Lamati Yehuda. Hashem called out, or appointed perhaps, you might want to translate that, B'Tzalel ben Uri ben Chur Lamati Yehuda. Interesting. But the Kli Yoker says something more interesting. The diak is in the words, Kara Hashem b'Shem B'Tzalel. The name that B'Tzalel got, the name that B'Tzalel had, was B'Tzalel. Look, if we had a whiteboard here, which we don't have, and I was to write the following thing on the whiteboard, W-A-T-E-R. Are you with me? Good. And then I wrote underneath it, H-2-O. What have I written? Water twice. Water twice. Oh, but the nafkamina is very clear. Water, the word water, W-A-T-R, is what in English we decide to call that stuff. In German it's Wasser. In French it's l'eau. In Russian it's Vada. And in Scots it's Iski. Iski Bech, from which comes whiskey. That's how it just, which of course is the Iker. So you can call it be'emes whatever you like. But H2O is what it is. The thing is a mixture of hydrogen and oxygen of a ratio to 2 to 1. That's the teva, the etzem zach, is in the name. And the name in Lashon HaKodesh that a person is given, forget, the name in Lashon HaKodesh of a thing is the teva of the thing. But not just as the teva of the thing, but be'emes, our names, when we come to choose our names, or choose our names for our children, it's not our choice. The name that we give the children is suggested min hashamayim. Now I know you're going to say, but we had to name the child after the Alta Zayde, or after the Alta Baba, whatever it is, Afal Pekin, because it's an idea of Gilgal Neshamas. It might well be that the child is the Alta Zayde, or the Alta Baba. And the name is the teva of the person. So the Kli Yoker says, interesting. Omar Moshe Ru'u v'dikdiku. Moshe was saying to Klal Yisrael, see and be medakdik. B'shemoisim. In the names. Kikara Hashem b'shem B'tzalel, because Hashem called him B'tzalel. No, he didn't. His parents called him B'tzalel. B'tzalel, what does it say? He's called B'tzalel ben Uri. So Uri sat down with Mrs. Uri and said, what are we going to call this child? Oh, I know. They came up with the name B'tzalel. No, they didn't. The name B'tzalel, even though they came up with it, was put into their mind by Hashem Yisborach. And listen to the Lashon. Ki lechatchila, it's onfang at the beginning, Kara Hashem lahem shemas hamorim al shehem nivro lakach sheyo oiskim b'malechas hakodesh. That from the very onset, the name that they were given told them that they had a task to do. They had a tachlis in the world. It was the avodas hakodesh. But Salel means betzel kel. You're going to be standing in the shade of Hashem Yisborach. You're going to be so close to Hashem when it comes to the building of the base of the Mishkan. That Taki, remember Moshe, when he said, Moshe Rabbeinu says, make the furniture and then make the Mishkan. And Betzalel says, are you sure that's the way Hashem said it? Normally the minhag is for people to build a house and then move the furniture in. Maybe we should, maybe he told you the other way about. And Moshe, Taka, bistugarat, you're right. You're right, it's exactly what he told me. But Betzalel had a special koyach when it comes to making the Mishkan. It's contained in the name. Ben Uri, the Kli Yoker goes on to say that Uri was because his father was when it came to Torah, he was Iris of Torah. And Ben-Chur, we all know that Chur was the one who stood against the Erev Rav and said, no, I'm not going to build the Mishkan, and they killed him for it. So, not going to build the Egel Azov, and they killed him for it. And as the Mishkan is a tikkun for the Egel Azov, and it's appropriate from that family. And then he goes on to talk about other names and other people and why their name is particularly who they are. It's H2O. You are your name. Now, it seems to be, Taka, the way that the Kli Yoker writes this, that we're really talking about is something that happened back then. I brought the wrong Michtav Melio, so I had to get my wife to take a picture of it and send me in my phone. Rabbi Dessler, when it comes to his essay on Pesach, and this is a festival coming, as we all know, he says, interessant. Hine, kol inyan b'koldova yesh lo toichin pnimi. Now everything's got the outside, that's the water, Wasser, and the H2O. Hamastakal al pi hamabit hapanimi hu roy b'kol be'ikar es toichin haruchni shel dvorim. So if you look deep, if you get to the H2O, you get to what the etzem zach is. So says Rabbi Dessler like this: Golus Mitzrayim ha'is a bechinas miuchedes begolus and nefesh. The Golus Mitzrayim was particularly harsh, and it wasn't just a golus, a physical golus, but a golus hanefesh as well. And the soul of the Jewish people was particularly oppressed there. That's why the place is called. Now remember, you are your name. So the place that Klal Yisrael was exiled was a place called Mitzrayim. What does Mitzrayim mean? Well, think of Hallel. Min ha-Metzar karosi ko. Metzar is a vice. Did you ever see anybody putting a piece of wood or a piece of metal in a vice? the things come together, squishes it, holds it very stark in place, right? A vice. It's a very good tool to have at home, incidentally, if you're handy. I used to have one before I moved here. It's easy to cut wood, etc. But when you're oppressed, the oppression of Clan and Thrall was uniquely bad in a place which tells you it's a place of oppression and squishing. That's right. And then there's the name Paro. The name Paro, what does that mean? So the emphasis of the Paro comes from the word Perua. And Perua means to be uncovered or revealed, naked. And Taki, I don't know if you know, as I say, I was just last week just on the border between Holland and Germany. But when Germany became a unified country, of course the East, which was under the communists, became part of the West. And they found that something called the Stasi, that was the East German communist secret police. They had files on every single person. Not only that, if I remember rightly, that every single German, because you can understand that German Goyim are very good at this sort of stuff, was spying on every other German. It's a Politik Azach. Each one was a spy on everybody else. They're all reporting at what he did. He drew his curtains, he uncovered his curtains, they're writing all down. Complete Mishigun. Afal Pikain, if you live in a society in which there's such supervision, there's such cook, they know exactly what you're doing for states. So now you can understand what Chazal said, no Ebed was ever able to escape from Mitzrayim. Nobody was able to escape the Shlita of Paroi. It's a place where the Melech has knowledge of every single thing about you, what you're doing, etc. And for states like you are in serious, serious trouble. But moreover, it's not something just then. It's not just something that happened at the time of the names are given in the Torah, the names are given in Tanakh. Fakir is something that seems to happen even now. And Taka, Rabbi Meir, the Gemara says, and so Rabbi Dessler brings this, Gemara Newman Pei Gimel, and says the following thing, Rabbi Meir daik b'shmo. If somebody had a problem in their life, look, I hope this applies to every single person here. Aseh l'chorav, as I've told you 1,000 times, is the most important thing, I think, for a yid to succeed. A person has to have a rov. Nobody sees themselves clearly. And when you're particularly when you're in trouble, particularly in a fight with somebody, your business partner, Rahman al-Islam, your wife, the Ashalom Bay's problem, you need somebody who's standing outside you to be able to see that you're in trouble and analyze that properly and find a solution for you. How did Rebbe Meir do it? It says that more Rebbe Meir b'dai b'shmo. That means to say at the time of the Gemara, and afilu taka height, although we have to be a shtickle careful about this, but there are people who have got a koyach to know the problem as a consequence of your name. Why? Because you are your name. So when people went to Rabbi Meir and they had a problem, Rabbi Meir would say, what's your name? We're not talking, Rabbi Sai, about handwriting analysis, which seems to be a koyach. We're talking about what's your name? Because the name contains the koyach of the person. So Lama Zogin, somebody's called, I don't know, Yankel Baruch. And Lama Zogin, I don't know, because I certainly don't know these koyachas, that the name Yankel Baruch suggests a certain netiya to kas, and a certain netiya to be not suffer fools gladly. And let's say she's called Brocha Hindel. Lama Zogin Brocha Hindel means something. And now that is the person, then when you hear the name, you'd say, oh, well, he's got netiya to kas, and he's not very good at suffering mistakes. And she's got whatever. Now I know what the source of the problem is. That would be the basis of his eitzah to the husband and the wife. And he could explore from there and find a bostutzach. He would know that's the etzim zach, the shorish of the problem, and be able to put that right. If you can do that, it's a big gavaldik koyach. It's not something that was just then. It's here now. So I was clearing like this. When it says that B'Tzalel, that the name he's given is the name of what he is, be'etzim what he is, a thought came into my mind about another bunch of names. Another bunch of names that we find, Takim, very soon we'll be looking at this and learning this. Megillus Rus. So in Megillus Rus it says, interessant, Vayhi b'mishvat al-shoftim, Vayira'ov ba'oretz, there's a famine in the land, Vayelech ishu v'eslech in Yehuda. At this stage it doesn't tell us who this person is, but it certainly calls him an Ish. An Ish is the name in Lashon HaKodesh for somebody who's very, very great. And we know, because we know the story, that Elimelech was the god Ladar. Who Ishtar Shem Bonav, him and his wife and his two sons. Shem Ish Elimelech. And the name of the man was Elimelech. Shem Ishtar Naomi. Shem Shem Bonav Machal Chilian. Ephratim and Beis Lechem Yehuda. There were Ephratim from Beis Lechem and Yehuda, which it's just told us in the previous pasuk. And they came to the field of Moab and they were there. The Al-Shach HaKadosh says, really? I came tonight to Muncie and I was there. I think the correct American expression is, duh. Right? Could I have come to Muncie and been anywhere else? So they came to the field of Moab, Vayusham. Oh, thank you. I thought perhaps they were in Spain. But Stutzach. So in the first pasuk, they've done nothing wrong. For Klal Yisrael is in terrible trouble. It's Vayi b'mei shafot hashoftim. When they judge their judges, they're no longer listening to the Torah. They're certainly not listening to what the Dayanim tell them. And as I mentioned to you once before, and maybe you've got to be careful repeating this, but Morav Rabbi it doesn't say anywhere in the Torah, surprise, surprise, that Eretz Yisrael was given by Hashem Yisborach to Klal Yisrael. Did you hear that? It doesn't say anywhere in the Torah Kadosh that Hashem Yisborach gave Eretz Yisrael to Klal Yisrael. It's Asher Ani Noisein, not Nosa, Noisein. I am giving it. It's an ongoing gift. Boinei Yerushalayim, Hashem, as we say in the Shemona Esrei, is building Yerushalayim now. It's all moving towards the time of the Mashiach when Taka will be rebuilt properly. But Noisein, Hashem is giving Klal Yisrael, Eretz Yisrael. The difference is if you have a neighbor who's a very bad neighbor and a very noisy neighbor, and he is renting the property. If he's renting the property, you can turn around to the guy and say he's a terrible neighbor, and hopefully he'll do something about it. He can kick him out. But if he owns the house, and he is the neighbor from Gehenna, then you're a little bit stuck. The Klal Yisrael never owned Eretz Yisrael. It's never Asher Ani Nosan. Asher Ani Noisein. And the conditions of the lease, Rabbi are in the second paragraph of the Shema. V'hoya im shmoya tishmol mitzvah. So if you keep the conditions of the lease, there are 613 conditions of the lease. If you keep it, that's fine. If not, not. But if they're not listening to the Rabbani, not listening to the Shaif team, they're not interested in Eretz Yisrael. So he sends along a famine, Hashem Yisborah, to get rid of Klal Yisrael. So one fellow goes. But he only goes to temporarily stay outside Eretz Yisrael. And that's why it says that they come to the fields of Moab, means cities, Lagur Sham, but by the end of the second pasuk, he's left and stayed out. They came to the field of Moab, Vayu Sham. But why does it repeat when it's already told you they came from Beis Lechem? Why does it say it a second time? That they come from Beis Lechem, and then it says, and they were Ephratim. So Ephratim normally, because it's usually translated as they were aristocrats. They were posh. Aber Ephrat is another name for Miriam. They were direct descendants of Miriam. Ish means he was somebody Gor Choshev. He was Taka the god Ladar. In fact, the Gemara says, Elimelech Olai Tovi Malchus. To me, Malchus should come. And that's what I was starting to think. Oibazoi, is it his real name or is it not his real name? Was Elimelech called Elimelech in his days? My problem is Nomi. Was Nomi's name Nomi? Why? Because the pasuk says that she was called Nomi because everybody called her Nomi. So was she really called Nomi? Was she called Sarala or something else? I didn't have a chance to look this up. But it means certainly that she had the potential to be a Nomi, and it seems to have been recognized. Everybody called her Nomi. She was so pleasant. But was that her real name? Machla B'Chiliam was certainly not called Machla B'Chiliam. There's no shilas about that. Ever heard of a yid called Machlin? Any Chilians? Well, Machlin says the Al-Shach and says the Svarim comes from the name Mechila. He got forgiven for what he did wrong. We're not going to go into what they did wrong. But Chilian comes from the word Kalia. What does Kalia mean? Destroyed. Exterminated. Mazel tov, baby boy, you had the priest, yeah, what did you call him? Destroyed. What? Makes no sense whatsoever. But the Ephratim says, Ephratim from Beis Lechem. Why does it repeat it a second time? Because Amol, when you hear where a person comes from, that already tells you what sort of yid they are. If you ever go to Gateshead, and you want to go to the Beis Island, Gateshead, it's actually Newcastle upon Tyne. There's a river called the River Tyne. South of it is Gateshead. I think we've heard of Gateshead before, yeah? North of it is a town called Newcastle. And the graveyard is split the same way. There's a path, and north of it, the path, is the graves of the Yidden from Newcastle. And south is Gateshead. Now you can tell the difference straight away. First of all, the Newcastle Yidden, who are average Yidden, there's got English on the headstones, which normally, of course, is not the right thing to do. And, of course, the Gateshead headstones don't. And then over one of the headstones, I saw it said, a wonderful artist. Maybe they were. But in the other side, he was a Saifa, he was a Rosh Hashiva, he was a Rav, etc. You know, it's different. It's a different thing, and you can tell by the town what sort of Yid it is. So in England, if somebody, absolutely guarantee you, if you're asking, an ordinary English Jew says to somebody, where do you live? And they say Gateshead, the normal reaction is, mamish like that. You find it a bit like that in America, right? If somebody says that they live in Lakewood, or dare I say, Muncie, right? Your average Jew goes, right? They are, because the place tells you something about the Yid. These are Torah-dika places. These are Mokum Torah, Mokum Chasidus, whatever you like. And that tells you, Beis Lechem, the second time it says Beis Lechem Yehuda, it's the place where all the Choshev Yidden lived. That was the center of Choshev Yidden. Was Nomi really Nomi? Weiß nicht. Not clear if Nomi's real name was Nomi. I've got to look this up. I left my Sefer Seder Adaris in England, so I've not been able to check this out. But Taka, the point is, even if it wasn't her real name, well, the potential to be a Nomi was written in there. So by Emes, we see this idea, Taka, a second time. And this you find in the Torah itself. In the Torah it tells a story about Yaakov Avinu having a fight with an angel, which we all remember. So when he fights with the angel, and this is in Lamed Beis, and it's Posuk Lamed. Where's this? Good. Yeah. So Yaakov says to the angel, what's your name? So the angel says, the Malach says, why are you asking my name? I heard something very brilliant. The Malach, of course, was the Malach of Esav. The Malach was the Malach of Esav. And it looks as though he wouldn't give the answer. Why are you asking my name? He gave the answer. Lama Tishal. That's my name. The Malach of Esav is, don't ask questions. The Hashkafa is, just do what you're told. Right? Don't go deep. Don't look to see what's underneath water, what it contains. That's the Malach of Esav. But just before that, he said the Malach says to him, "V'yomer lo Yaakov yomer oid shmecha." He says, "V'yomer lo Yaakov yomer oid shmecha." Don't call your name Yaakov anymore. Ki'im Yisrael, but your name's going to be Yisrael. Isn't that a little bit strange? Did it ever strike you strange that Hashem Yisborach gave him a name? If the name comes from Hashem Yisborach, it's called Yaakov, and along comes a Malach and says, "It's not your name anymore. That's not what we're going to call you." So the Medrash Rabbah says something Peladik Azach. Because Taka, just a little bit later on, then Hashem himself changes the name, but it's Taka a few prokim later. And there, a little bit of difficulty finding this thread there. It says, Yomar Elokim Shimcha Yaakov lo Yikora Shimcha Oid. Don't call your name Yaakov anymore, you're going to be called Yisrael. But that's already happened. Didn't the Malach say that? So the strange thing is, how can a Malach change the name? And then Hashem's going to do it anyway. So the Medrash Rabbah says, the only thing the Malach was actually saying is, now your name, Yaakov, is changed. Hashem's not said it to you, but the time to change your name, that's now. Hashem's going to tell you in a second. I'm not changing your name. I just want you to know that the time when the name Yaakov is no longer sufficient for you, you've reached a new Madriga, which needs a new name, that Hashem's about to tell you. And Taka Hashem turns around and tells him that. The name that a person gets contains every single bit of potential that you have. Now, we mentioned before that you are your name. There's an obvious question, and the question is, if there was, we call somebody Yankel Baruch. Let's say, if you are your name, Yankel Baruch ben David Shmuel. Let's say there's a guy who lives in Monsey who's a Yankel Baruch ben David Shmuel. There's another guy in Los Angeles. He's also called Yankel Baruch ben David Shmuel. The one who lives in Monsey, the Yankel Baruch who lives in Monsey, is one of the sweetest, nicest, kindest Yidden you could ever meet in your life. The other fellow with the exact same name, who lives in Los Angeles, nothing against Los Angeles, very fine kehillah, make this point for the camera here. Okay, Hoboken. Is there any? Do people still live in Hoboken? That's what?
You're safe.
I'm safe in Hoboken. I didn't mean Los Angeles. I meant Hoboken. Okay, so there's another fellow called Yaakov Shmuel who lives in Hoboken, and he's one of the most repulsive, obnoxious people you've ever come across in your life. Those two, they've got the same name. If what I'm telling you is right, they should be the same person. Well, if you've got flour and water, eggs, oil and sugar, you can make bread or you can make a cake. It's up to you. We're talking about the potential is in the name. But what a person does with the ingredients, what they turn that into, whether it's stam bread, don't want to certainly be my bread, or something a little bit more fancy, that's your choice. How did you knead the dough? How did you mix it? How did you bake it? How did you bake the stuff? You turn it into something ordinary or something very, very special. So Rabbi Yerucham, the Sefer Das Kochel Musar, he talks about this with regards to the bracha which Yaakov Avinu wanted to give to Yosef's sons. And for Shteitzach, we all know the famous story that he wanted to give. Yosef takes his hands because he thinks that Yaakov is giving the wrong bracha to the wrong son. To which Yaakov Avinu famously turns around and says, Yadati b'ni yadati, I know what I'm doing. This one's also going to be great, but his brother is going to be even greater. And this is his blessing. This is his blessing. The bracha you give to somebody is appropriate to the ingredients that go in to make the person who they are, and you can't give the bracha, a bracha for somebody whom the bracha doesn't fit. So you've got to find out what the person's potential is, because the word Baruch, as it says in Sefer Nefesh HaChaim, Baruch is to take what's there and make it greater. It's to take potential and to rise it up. And therefore Yaakov could not change the bracha. Ephraim's bracha was Ephraim's bracha. Menashe's bracha was Menashe's bracha. And you couldn't, no matter how much you want me to give a better bracha one to the other, it doesn't work that way. You take what the person's got, the potential he's got, and the bracha simply enhances that and makes it come to fruition. With me so far? Yeah. So that if you fulfill your name, if you fulfill your potential, which is lying there all the time, Bezalel always had the potential to be somebody who would build the Mishkan, but he's got to fulfill that potential. He's got to turn himself from an Efsher into a Vadoi, into a potential Bezalel, into an emistic Bezalel, who will be of the Madrega to make a Mishkan. He can be given all those koiches and make a mess of it as well. He can be the Bezalel from Hoboken as opposed to the Bezalel from Monsey. It's a question of taking the potential which is inside your name and realizing it. And Yaakov gets to Madrega when the potential in his name, guess what? He's got another name just waiting to come alive, which is Yisrael. And he realizes that potential too. So if a person goes through life with understanding what their name is, and incidentally, you don't have to go to some Makubal for this. All we're talking about here is that your name is a short-circuiting, a quick way to find out what your potential is. There are not too many people with those koiches, not too many Rebbe Meirs around in our generation. On the other hand, there are great Gedolim who are able to look and understand where your potential lies, what your koiches are, and give you the advice to make you the best possible person you could possibly be. Sometimes it's the case that you can't do it alone. Forget. It's always the case that you can't do it alone. You need somebody to help you to discover what that potential inside you is, what your name means, and how to turn it into reality. I remember, I think I told you once the story of a Yid in Liverpool. When I was in Gateshead for 7 years, there was a after I did Yori Day, I moved to Liverpool. There was a Coil in Liverpool. And you heard of Liverpool? It's a town on the east coast, northwest of England. And I was very, very fond of the place. And we lived, the Coil was just at the top of a road called Penny Lane, which is very, very famous, and called Hamavin Yovin, as they say. And my road was at the top of Penny Lane. And I remember one day I went down there, and there was a Jewish newspaper there. I had an office there called the Jewish Telegraph, still there. And there was an old blind man called David Levy who used to sit in there answering the phone. He was an older man, sat there, and I used to walk past, and I'd look in there, and I felt very sorry for the fellow. Somebody a couple of years ago, somebody sent me a little film somebody made about my hometown in Glasgow. And I think it was something about the koyach of words. So there's a guy sitting there on the ground outside a famous library in Glasgow, and he's got a sign, he's blind, and it says, "Please help." So people are going past, and most are ignoring him. A couple of people are throwing him a pruta or two. And along comes a young lady, and she looks at him, she looks at the sign, she picks it up, and she starts to write something. She puts it down, she walks away. And then you see they're all throwing money at the guy. So a little while later, she comes back, and he hears the voice. He said, "What did you do to my sign?" She said, "I just wrote the same thing, only different." And she changed the sign, she's written the other side. But that way, "It's a beautiful day, but I can't see it." And that really touched people. And then they started to give money rather than, "Can you help?" "It's a beautiful day and I can't see it." People got the idea. And when I walked past, I saw this guy, it was a beautiful day. And that's exactly what I thought. Nebuch, he can't see it. It was a gorgeous day, an English summer's day, which is a bit like, wintertime. But the sun was shining. It does that once or twice in England. The sun was shining, it was absolutely beautiful. And Nebuch, this little guy sitting in there, a blind mensch, Nebuch, and he's sitting there at the phone, just answering the phone. So I went in, and I introduced myself. I just moved to town, I'm in the Kylo here, how are you? And whenever I went past this place, I went in to see this fellow. And one night he phoned me, and he said, "I'd like you to come and speak to me." I said, "Sure, come right now." No. For some reason, it had to be when his wife wasn't at home, when she was out playing Scrabble. And so, soft call soft, we eventually made an appointment, and I went to see him. And he told me the story of his life. I take it, I've very seldom heard a sadder life than this fellow. You see, when I told you he was blind, he became blind because his brother intentionally blinded him. Did you hear that? So basically, they had him and his brother. They weren't Sharman Termitz Nebuch. They didn't have that opportunity that we've had, and they had a business called the Credit Drapers business. That was hidden in those days. I think it was the exact same here. They used to go around the doors, selling to people clothes, whatever. More expensive than to buy in the stores, but you could pay it up. Every week you'd make a contribution. Right? They call it in England hire purchase. Is that the same in America? So you're paying it up, You used to have catalogs. You buy stuff. Before you bought it online, you'd buy a catalogue and all the stuff was there. It's more expensive, but you can pay it up a little bit at a time, so fine. And they used to go around collecting the money. So one night they went around collecting the money, and the brother apparently had a terrible temper. Terrible temper. And he went to the front door of some lady, Mrs. McCartney, and knocked on the door, and she said, I love the Liverpool accent, she said, "Your brother said I don't have to pay this week. I don't have any money." Which, in translation, Rabbi Sai, was, I don't have to pay. Your brother had said, David Levy had said last week, she had explained she didn't have any money. He said he would let her off that week's payment. So the brother flew into a rage, came back into this little English car, screamed at him, "Did you let her off the payment?" He said, "You didn't have any money." And his brother started to punch him about the head. He said, "For God's sake, watch me." He had an eye problem already. His eyes were very, very delicate. "Watch, you hurt my eyes." He said, "I hope to God I do." And he intentionally punched his brother in both eyes, blinding him for life. Get hurt. He had scars all over his neck. If I remember right, he had over 30 major surgeries in his life. I mean, this guy's life was very sad. And then he said, and when I die, I don't want anybody to say Kaddish for me. But he added, because nobody will say Kaddish for me. And the really tragic thing, to my mind more than anything else, he had two sons. One lives in Canada. The other lived in London and was an eye specialist. Right? And he saw his son once a year. He had to go down to London to see the son. And there was a coach. They used to take the ex-servicemen, Jewish ex-servicemen who'd served in the British Army. They went down for the annual Day of Remembrance. What do you call that in America? It's called Memorial Day. So the equivalent's there. It's called Remembrance Day in London. So all the ex-soldiers were down in a coach to London. He got a free ride, Nebuch, this blind fellow. They dropped him on the street corner, and he stood there and waited for his son to come and get him. In the cold Nebuch. It's November. The son would drive up in his Jaguar, take his father home for a couple of hours, dump him in the street corner again. And that was that. Nebuch. He died going down to see his son. That coach had a car crashed in Birmingham, halfway between Manchester and London. And there was only one person was killed in the coach. And that was him. Nebuch's story. But he said, I don't want anybody to say Kaddish for me because nobody will say Kaddish for me. And I smiled at him and I said, look, let me tell you a story. So the Maaseh with Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld. Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld had told this story once of, in the yeshiva of Pressburg, there was a very rich couple who supported of the big askonim of the yeshiva. And they gave a fortune to the yeshiva. The fellow was nifter. His wife took over the business. And when she took over the business, she wasn't a talented businesswoman, and very soon they lost everything. So she went to the yeshiva to make an appointment to see the Rosh Yeshiva one day because they had a special tzedakah. One of the things they gave to the yeshiva was they gave money because, and this is very common in yeshivas, people who don't have anybody to say Kaddish for them, then what happens is that they would give money and one of the bochrim in the yeshiva would say Kaddish. And so she begged them to make sure that their long list of people who had Kaddish said in their schus used to give the money, they'd still say the Kaddishes, and of course, for Shtetzach, the Rosh Yeshiva said there's nothing to worry about, of course it would carry on. So she came out the yeshiva, was walking along the road, and there was an old fellow, very dapper, smartly dressed, with a white beard, and a cane. He's walking towards her, and he sort of like doffed his hat, and she made a little weak smile. And this old friendly, old Yiddish fellow said, Madam, you don't look very happy. A mole, it's easier to tell your tzoros to a complete stranger than it is to tell it to people you know. So she said, well, as a matter of fact, I'm not very happy. What's the problem? And she told the story. Her husband had passed away 2 years ago. They used to be extremely wealthy. They'd lost the business, everything. Now they don't have a penny. And she's got two daughters who are of marriageable age. And there's no money. No money for a dadan, no money for a wedding, nothing. The old fellow says, very sad. He went inside his pocket and he pulled out a checkbook. Now, I'm going to, he said, write your check that will cover your daughter's weddings. Now, how much is a chasna these days? Ich weiß nicht. How much is it? $50,000? And a dadan, twice, $200,000. Ich weiß nicht, right? Whatever the money was in Pressburg in Hungary in those days, right, he wrote a check. Starts to write the check, says, you know what, I'm scared that my bank, it's not like these days, Chase all over the place or whatever bank it is. A bank was a bank. It was one bank. He had to take the check to his bank. I'm scared that they won't honor the check, so a very large amount, we need to have it witnessed. So they go back inside the yeshiva, and they found two bochrim who witnessed the signing of the check. He gave it to her and gave her every blessing under the sun. He said, remember to take it to my bank tomorrow, and everything should go well. He found shidduch for your daughters and everything. And off he went. So the next day she went to the bank. Now, Rabbi said, when's the last time somebody walked up to you in the street and gave you $200,000? Hasn't happened to me yet. But I'm looking forward. So anyway, soft called soft. She went into the bank very nervously because surely there's something wrong with this. She goes to the glass window of the teller and she hands over the check. And his eyebrows flew up into the top of his head. A lot of money. She said, that's a very large amount. I can't possibly cash this check without checking with the manager, who's the owner of the bank. So she went to, she's watching him, he walks over to the door and he knocks, the door opens, and the bank owner, manager, takes it, looks at the check, and faints. So they all go rushing and they're bringing glasses of water. They take him, and now she's really scared. After a few minutes, somebody comes out and said, the bank manager would like to see you. So they bring her in, and he's sitting, he's recovered, he's behind his desk, and he says, please sit down. So she sat down, and he said, where did you get that check? And she said the story. So he opened a drawer, and he took out a bunch of photographs. He said, would you look through these photographs? And so he looked through the photographs. She looked through the photographs. She said, after 3 or 4, that's him. That's the man. And he said, that's a picture of my late father. And last night he came to me in a dream. And he said, since you married out and stopped saying Kaddish for me, my neshama knew no peace in Shemaim. But there was somebody who made sure that Kaddish was said for me, and now they're in trouble. So tomorrow they're going to come into your bank with a check, and I want you to honour that check. So he woke up, terrible, covered in sweat, a terrible dream. So his wife sees he's upset, and he tells her what the dream was about. She said Boba Mises, whatever Boba Mises is in Hungarian. And the next day, poof, in walks the lady with the check. So he paid the check. He honoured the check from his own money. He became a Baal Tshuva. His wife became a Gioris, and they became the big supporters of the Yeshiva of Pressburg. And Rabbi Yossel Chaim Sonnenfeld explained later that he was one of the Bochrim who witnessed the signing of the check. So Amol, you can maximize the potential that you have. Sometimes you fail completely, like this guy did, but somebody else can help you get back on course. Even when you're struggling, somebody else can help you to maximize your potential. Right? They made sure that Kaddishes was said. And when this fellow had failed even to say a Kaddish for his tata, guess what? Somebody else can get you back on track. And when I was in Holland on Shabbos, so it was very, very interesting Shabbos. I enjoyed it, as I said, very much, and the people were exceptional. So the last share I gave, there was 8 shirim to give, and the last one, there was about, Sunday morning, a lot of people had already gone back to Amsterdam, so it was about 20 or 30 people, and there was an older couple there. These days, if I'm saying an older couple, it's an older couple. And so they asked to speak to me afterwards, and I said, sure. So they had a problem. I was wondering what the problem would be. When it's an older couple, it must be a problem with an enikel. Maybe the children. I wasn't sure. They told me an interesting story. So the lady, very fine person, very refined. She's originally from Eretz Yisrael, but she's been married in Holland her whole life. And she came across a lady, an Israeli lady. And I don't know where she found this lady, but she befriended her. And the lady, Nebuch, has married out, has 2 children, who have married non-Jews, and Taka, it's the end of the line. Heartbreakingly sad. And this lady, and it's a very sad thing to know, and I've seen this myself, if you want to find real Amaratzes, you can go to Eastern Europe for Stetzach, you can go to Hoboken or, Eckveld places here in America, but you can find the same thing in Eretz Yisrael. Surprisingly, in Eretz Yisrael, you can find Yidden who mamish don't know, mamish gone. This woman didn't know what kashrus, that there was such a thing as kashrus. This woman didn't know there was such a thing as Shabbos, certainly, Yom Kippur, nothing, gonish from gonish. And so this older lady who was trying to befriend her wanted to bring her to shul and introduce her to the Kehillah. And she was just not interested. There was nothing to work with. So 6 months ago, and she was visiting her younger friend who started to cough. And it was quite a cough. And she looked very unhappy. And she explained to the older lady that in actual fact, 10 years before, she'd had breast cancer. And if you know anything about that disease, it spreads when it's spreading from its first place, usually to the ovaries, and from the ovaries to the lungs. And Taka, she said, are you okay? Just been to the doctor. She thought she was completely cured. And it had spread to the lungs, but not only the lungs, it spread everywhere. And she said to her, maybe we can do this and maybe we can do that. So they started to discuss this, and she said, no, there's nothing we can do. I've known about this already for quite a while. And then she said, and I want to be cremated. And I want to be cremated. And the older lady was mamish, broken-hearted about this. Why does she want to be cremated? She said, because I don't want to be buried. No one will come and visit my grave. It's mamish is almost the same sprach as don't anybody say Kaddish for me because nobody will say Kaddish for me. Nobody will come and visit my grave. So I was waiting, and of course, the older lady who's a balasek said, we'll come and visit your grave. But it wasn't good enough. And she tried to argue, and she just was getting nowhere. That was the shaila. What should she do? I would prefer it was somebody dropped a bit of milk into a cholent. I'm qualified to answer that one. But what do you say? What do you say when you hear such a story? So I said, I've had an idea. But for this idea to work, you have to be a good liar. How good are you at lying? No, so so we're going to say the following thing. You're going to say to her that you spent Shabbos with a very famous rabbi, right? And it's very sweet. She said, but you are a famous rabbi. Not that famous. My mother, bless her, always used to say when I first appeared on TV in England, son, you're famous. And I used to say, yeah, Mom, but what happened to Rich and? But anyway, so Bekitzer, so I said, you're going to say you spent Shabbos with a very famous rabbi. And the famous rabbi gave you a bracha. And the bracha is that when your time comes, whenever that is, that you'll go gently, peacefully, painlessly, and happily to Olam Haba. And she went, I said, in fact, I'll write it to her. I'll write the bracha. So I wrote down the bracha, I made a whole big thing, and then used flowery language, folded it up. And then I had a copy of, I brought 4 of my books with me. New book. I brought 4 of my books with me, and she'd taken Taka one of my other books, but I think I've told you before, I wrote a book called The Little Book for Big Worries, dealing with serious illness, which was based on the stories of my late wife's breast cancer, and dealing with that. I said, did you buy that book? She said, no. I said, in that case, I'll give it to her as well. So I gave it, and it's got that story in, the story I just told you about David Levy, signed it to her, and off we go. Now, I knew I was giving the shia tonight, I knew I wanted to tell you the story. I tried to get through to Holland to find out what's happened. It's going to be gewaldig if it's been matzliach. Wouldn't that be a nice ending to this story? And then I could say, because to maximize who you are and what you are, the potential in your name, sometimes you can't do it yourself, sometimes you need somebody else who comes along, etc., who can do it for you. And the gewaldig, if I'm able to tell you that that's what she's done, I don't know yet. So please make sure I'm invited back in a couple of weeks' time after Pesach, and hopefully I'll get a nice story. Oh, but the emes of the metzias of the story is the metzias of our life. Inside you is a name which talks about gadlus. You're a Yankel Shmuel, you're an Avram Yitzchak, whatever it is. The name has got the potential that you have. But you can use that potential negatively, or you can use it positively. But Amal, you don't get it right, but you can get it right if somebody helps you. You can get it right when somebody else comes along and says, I'll do it. Even if a person goes off and gets lost. This fellow was not even saying Kaddish in Pressburg for his father and his mother, but the father made sure, but Siyata Deshmai, for whatever discussion they had, he was able to get back on. When you don't fulfill it yourself, somebody can fulfill it for you. Somebody can help you get back on the there. For goodness sake, Rebbe Meir used to daven for Acher after he was in Gehenna and got him out of Gehenna. Somebody can take a person who is broken, who is a connection to Yiddishkeit is broken like this lady, but there's a remez, the Pintele Yid there. I don't want people to say Kaddish for me because nobody will say Kaddish for me. I don't want to be buried because nobody will visit my grave. That means they do! I just need somebody to give them a little bit of a nudge. So I'm being mispalo Maybe you can have this lady in your tefillos. I've not got the answer yet. Maybe we could talk next time we have Shemona Esra. But this Yidna Nebuch, whose life's a mess, and I don't know the Cheshbon Hashem is Baruch, and you can't judge somebody you don't know of as Tutzach. Sof kol sof. There's a potential here, maybe all together, to give a little shtup to get this lady back on the right track. That she'll feel confident that she should have a proper Yiddish kavura, so that her neshama can go to where it should go and have the tikkun that it should have, with just a little bit help from somebody else. Because you have got potential in your name. Hashem didn't send you here without potential. It's all inside. Sometimes you can't see it, but somebody else can see it. Get to somebody, if you're struggling, to find out what my potential is. But sometimes when you're starting to get lost, there's somebody who can help you find yourself all over again.